What we're going to go over in this movie is the interactive velocity analysis for 2D and 3D velocity picking. So what, as a user, you would have run would be a VLAN processing that would output and create a common offset stack, semblance, common velocity stacks, possibly MVS stacks, as we see here. This would be through a velocity flow run, and in fact, in the flow itself, you could interactively bring up the interactive velocity picking on those particular outputs, and that's shown in some of the other tutorials. But let's just go ahead. What we're going to do is select those data sets. So it depends what you would normally pick your velocities on. So this is a common display of what we would see. We've got our semblance on the left. We've got the common offset stack, the various CMPs. We've got some dynamic stacks here in the middle, and then our CBS on the right here. So what we've then got to is our top toolbar and our side toolbar. So let's just go into picking mode and show how that works. These here, this allows us to do the zooming. Here's our picking. So if we come in and do a pick, we can see how that's actually correcting the common offset stack as we pick. This would be any zooming. So some of the other features we can do in here are showing our picks for our next and previous CMPs, showing our interval picks on the display itself. These simply toggle, these on the side toolbar toggle our axis display, as we can see here. This is toggling our semblance. All this is doing is showing our maximum semblance graph. These are toggling our dynamic stacks. What the dynamic stacks are, we can see, is this one on the left is a fixed stack of the CBS for the particular velocities that we picked, and this one on the right is changing, as we can see in here. This allows us to see what the stack might look like given a particular velocity picking. When we're in the picking mode, we simply left click to pick. So let's go into picking mode. We left click to pick. What's common in VISTA is picking using the left button. You can use Control, hold that down, and click to delete a pick, or hold the Shift key down to drag a pick. So we can see how that changes. So again, these are axes. Guide functions allow us to turn on some automatic guides in here. If we opened up another velocity, let's just look at one, we can see our next and previous picks as we move along. So we've got our next and previous. We can turn on, let's just move back one, we can turn on various options in here related to the gather, applying a stretch mute on the gather. As we can see here, we can pick a mute on this gather as well. There's various options, again, by right mouse button clicking, things like syncing velocities as we're picking. So we could come up here and at any point we can view our velocities that we've got picked. And here what we can do is we can tile vertically. I'm just going to tile, and I'm just going to make a pick here, way over. At this point I could do a velocity sync. We can see our pick at this point here. If we move down the line and made another erroneous pick, we can see how that's affecting that. So let's go back here, and I'll delete that. Other options in here allow us to, as we're picking, we're correcting that or uncorrecting that data set. As we're picking, we can see those picks on the CBS, so we can be picking, I'll delete that pick, we can actually be picking in the CBS itself. Here's our next and previous, I'll turn those off, our interval velocities, and again, turning on these options if you want to do the new. So once we've gone through picking, then we would save this to an output velocity VISTA file. In this case, we're picking in 2D. If we had a 3D data set, we could be flipping between inline and cross lines. It would present that as an option. we can see these picks on this particular data set. So that's just a general rundown of the interactive velocity picking.